Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Black Butler, chapter 176. When we last left our heroes, Baldroy was able to talk Lau out of just, killing everyone right away, and Lau granted Baldroy a few days to sort of work out, how he wants to kind of deal with Athena Sanatorium, without just killing everyone wholesale. Baldroy then kind of went that night to go confront Ada directly, and Ada revealed that she had known that Baldroy was lying about his identity for a while. His war experiences, I think he told Ada that he had been in the war in America, but he had told the other patients he was fighting in Africa, and so that didn't mesh. And Baldroy told her kind of what he was doing. That people have been dying from the bloodletting experiments, and if you care about your patients so much, why are you putting them through that? Ada kind of counters with, this is the only way to get a sanatorium that has the resources to really care for its patients. And she kind of explains that she survived the campaign in Sudan, shamelessly, in her own words, and wants to make up for that by helping other survivors, which launches Baldroy into his own flashback, where we see Baldroy in a cave with a bunch of dead people, after some bad battle, and he wakes up to a noise, and he sees Sebastian, setting a table in the cave. So we're back in flashback land, but let's hope it's more relevant to the action, than Mayrin's was. Our cover picture here is Sebastian doing a kind of grandiose bow, a warm welcome to the long-awaited rookie. Chapter 176, The Butler in the Kitchen. And so we open, sometime later, I think. It's still flashback, as the black borders kind of let us know. But Baldroy jolts awake. Are we under attack? And he looks around. He's in an attic, not in the cave we saw last month. Alone. There's no one else in the bed there. There are two beds. There's no one in the other bed. And he looks around. Right. Once again, I had survived. The word "I had survived" there makes it seem like this is Baldroy's narration to Ada. But I don't know. Anyway, we see someone clapping. Good morning, all of you. This is Sebastian. This is after the battle is over. After he's met Sebastian, and he's gone to work at the Phantomhive Manor. This is much faster paced than the Mayrin flashback, where it took us 5 or 6 chapters to get here. Good morning, all of you. This is Baldroy. He is taking service with the Phantomhive family. And we see Baldroy kind of scratches his head sheepishly. And Finny and Mayrin are both already there. Nice to meet you, Baldroy. I'm Finian, the gardener. Call me Finny. And Mayrin kind of stammers. I'm Mayrin, the housemaid. I am. Sorry. Nice to meet you, I am. And Baldroy kind of looks at the both of them. He's very exhausted. He's presumably, I'm guessing this is only, probably his first day in the manor. So he's still, very immediately shell-shocked by the battle that he just survived. But he just sort of looks at them, tired. And I think this is Sebastian's line. Mr. Tanaka is the house steward, but he is currently on a leave of absence. Until Mr. Tanaka returns, I, Sebastian McCallus, the butler, will be in charge of running this manor. We will have you fill the post of chef, which is vacant at present. And Baldroy kind of, sticks his finger in his ear. Hey, what kind of joke is this? Huh? You told me you're looking for good private soldiers, but I see one snotty kid, a jittery woman, and a pale skinny dude. So now here Baldroy is vastly underestimating the rest of the servants. And the thing I'm kind of wondering is because the flashback is starting so late into this story, which is good, I'm not gonna lie. It's very good. I'm curious what kind of the narrative thrust of it is gonna be. Is it gonna be more him learning that Finian and Mayrin and Sebastian are capable soldiers he can trust? Or what? Anyway, Baldroy continues, I can see you guys surrendering to little brats playing war, swinging around sticks. The other two servants kind of look at Sebastian, and Sebastian turns to turns back to Baldroy and kind of gives a slight grin. Surrender to kids, eh? Well, children are indeed extremely formidable living beings. And just after that, a bell from CL's room rings. Oh, speak of the devil. Master is summoning me. Mr. Baldroy, I will explain the details later. Make yourself at home below stairs. Finian Mayrin, please get to the job I asked of you. And Finian lets an exuberant yes. Mayrin also chimes in, yes. I'll work hard, yes. Don't run. And Baldroy kind of watches them run off. And then sits down, sort of like covering his eyes. What the hell am I doing? And we cut to several days ago. An American soldier, a chef. So apparently it's already been some time since then. I figured it was like the day after or something. Though whatever happened at that table, Sebastian and Baldroy worked everything out and then came here, and that's where we opened on. But apparently it's already been several days. And CL is kind of skeptical of Baldroy. An American soldier, a chef? Yes, sir. And CL presses, do we need a chef? You've been taking care of the kitchen alone. Excuse me. But in high society, prestige is attached to having a chef in employ. This post must be filled to restore the earldom. But CL sighs. In the first place, highly regarded chefs must be French or Italian. And Baldroy looks at him. You got problems with an American chef? You think first-class dudes always make first-class foods? If it's edible, who cares what it tastes like? Okay, so the thing it might just be me forgetting something pivotal we had already learned about Baldroy. But, like, was Baldroy actually a chef in the war? I thought he was a soldier, because, like, there's the running gag that he's bad at cooking. And so, like, the setup here seems to imply that he was already a chef. Like it'd be one thing if Sebastian just said we can make him a chef, and Baldroy's like, what the hell? But here he's already saying you got problems with an American chef. He has this whole kind of worldview about food already fully formed. If it's edible, who cares what it tastes like? I don't know. It's interesting. But anyway, CL answers his earlier question. I am not particular about who cooks the dishes. However, I prefer the food to taste first class. You may have been told to cook everything until it is burnt to a cinder on the battlefield. And we see an image of him burning down, like, what looks like a Native American camp. Which, that's a heavy thing to kind of tack on to a likable character's backstory. Which, admittedly, like, we already knew, I think, kind of intellectually that's what he was doing. But to have it laid out, it's kind of a lot. Anyway, CL continues. But you will not do so in our kitchen. This is my command. So the thing about what CL's line here seems to imply that he already knows Baldroy's story. You know, cook until everything is burnt to a cinder is not something you would tell any cook in any circumstances. But that's very clearly a metaphor. Not just because of, like, what we see behind it. But still. So the question is, CL must know, even this early, that they're not really hiring him as a chef. And so I think the question that then raises is CL's line, you will not do so in our kitchen, continuing the metaphor, or is he bringing the metaphor into the literal kitchen? I'm not quite sure. But Baldroy kind of looks at him. But Sebastian kind of cuts through the metaphor, I think. I did not recruit him because of his culinary skills. The Phantomhive Manor requires another senior staff who can manage the other servants. And CL kind of accepts that. I'll leave it to you. Train him well. As you will. And Baldroy kind of looks at CL. So this is my new employer? A runt who's barely turned 10? And Baldroy thinks back to a kid who we have not seen before. Are we going to get a flashback inside this flashback, Yana? Is that where we're going? Were you lulling me into a false sense of security so I would not suspect that there would be another flashback inside this flashback? I don't really know. Anyway, Baldroy flashes back this image of a kid. This one's so different from him. And he kind of clenches his fist and turns around. What am I thinking? Then in the later scene, I think this is back with our First flashback. We were in a flashback, and now we're back to just the flashback. Sebastian comes to the room. Mr. Baldroy, excuse me for keeping you waiting. You're recovering well, so today I will explain your duties as chef, and Baldroy cuts him off. You're being a creep. Eh? You're my superior, ain't ya? Then don't call me mister. And Sebastian looks at him. What shall I call you then? And Baldroy says with almost a laugh, Baldo. Just call me that. Everyone in my unit did. And Sebastian just looks at him like tired. That may have been acceptable in the army, but servants at a manor do not call each other by abbreviated names. Though this doesn't apply if they have no surnames. Moreover, senior servants never call each other... Oh, I read that order, read the line order. The line order there is slightly wrong. Moreover, senior servants never call each other by their first name, though this doesn't apply if they have no surnames. There we go. That is the rules of etiquette at a manor. Therefore, Mr. Baldroy is how I shall call you. So Baldroy then, that means that he doesn't have a first name. Unlike, say, like with Finian, as I recall, was some kind of experiment, so of course he wouldn't really have a last name. Mayrin was like an orphan, so she just might not know her last name. But Baldroy, as far as we know so far, had a pretty normal childhood before, joining the army and seeing all of his troops die. So why doesn't he have a last name? That's the real question. Anyway, therefore, Mr. Baldroy is how I shall call you. Baldroy looks at him. Oh, yeah? Well, Mr. Baldroy, I will not tell you to cook a full-course meal when you have no culinary experience. Their answer is goes on to the question I was bringing up back with that CL scene. It answers that the first part of that cook until everything is burnt to a cinder. That CL probably does mean that as a metaphor. Assuming that CL knows that Baldroy has no culinary experience. But again, the question is still, is that next line also continuing the metaphor, saying, don't just kill everything. There has to be some kind of class to it. Or is CL bringing that metaphor into the literal kitchen, like I said? And I just don't know. Anyway, you will start by preparing the vegetables and roasting meat, like a kitchen maid. Sure. Excuse me. And we see some dead birds and vegetables on the table. And Sebastian picks one up. We have a bird here, so let us make roast chicken. You simply flavor it with salt, pepper, and lemon. It's relatively easy to make. Begin by carefully plucking the feathers. Then he kind of trails off. And we got to Baldroy's first awful meal. He did not pluck the feathers. He didn't cut the head off. He didn't get rid of the talons. It's just a bird that's been burnt. and Sebastian looks at it. What in the world is this? It's a cooked bird. And Sebastian sort of rubs his head. I told you to prepare the chicken so it is edible. It is edible. And Baldroy picks it up and just takes a bite out of it right there, then and there. Munches part of it and spits part of it out, hitting, I think, Sebastian's shoe. You can't afford to carefully pluck feathers on the battlefield, especially when you're forced to eat wild birds because you've got no food. When you catch one, you hurry and grill it before your enemies notice. Then you carve it and everyone eats it however they like. That's the rules of etiquette on the battlefield. Was this too shocking for the well-behaved Mr. Butler? And Sebastian sort of takes a moment, pulls out a handkerchief. Fine. And he goes to wipe his shoe off. So you wish to be trained in military fashion. And he just decks Baldroy. That panel is so well drawn, I will say. The speed lines, just how blurry Baldroy is there. Just kind of emphasizing how fast and how strong Sebastian is with that one punch. And Baldroy hits the ground, stunned. Huh? This is what happens when you disobey your superior on the battlefield. Well, did I put too much spice on our rookie cook? And Baldroy reacts, You bastard! And then he's hit again. Gah! To be continued. Okay. So, I have a couple of major thoughts on this chapter. One is that I'm hoping that the fact that we're like I kind of said earlier, the fact that we're starting, already with Baldroy as a servant will mean this flashback will not be the 9 months we got from Mayrin. Hopefully only a couple of months tops. But what that kind of leads to is, presuming that this is the story Baldroy is telling Ada, what does this really have to do with his... I figured he would be telling her his war story. Just like Ada told him about surviving in Sudan, he would tell her about surviving... About the actual battle he survived in, not what happened next. So I don't quite know why he's telling all this. And also, it's weird that, this is... Just like last time was the Mayrin flashback, this seems to be the Baldroy flashback. But there's clearly... the Baldroy flashback, I should say. Emphasis on the definite article there. But there's still clearly another Baldroy flashback buried in there. On page... Let me see the page number. Page 14, when he says, this one's so different from him. That him clearly seems to be another Baldroy flashback. Though that kid does look a lot like Baldroy. So maybe it's like an older brother or something? I don't know. Or a younger brother, or... Oh, no, did he have a child? I think he had a child. Right, I forgot. He mentioned that when he was, faking the PTSD breakdown at the start of this arc. And I think the assumption is that the child is not just made up. Which this would kind of go into, that he's comparing CL to his own child. And CL, the kind of competent master of the house, is very different than his own little boy. I think that's what's going on there. I think I got all that right. But I'm still hoping this will be a much... I hope there's not too much more to this flashback. Just because it's still... I don't know. It's definitely more necessary than Mayrin's was. But there's a far cry between... I think even any flashback in a monthly manga, even the most necessary flashback comes with serious drawbacks, like the complete loss of momentum. So, I'm hoping we're out of here 2 more chapters at the latest. And given how late into it we start, that could very well be possible. But for now, this works well enough. It's got some good humor. There's not really a whole lot from a plot standpoint to really... Or a plot standpoint of the chapter itself to really go into. Given that kind of the arc of this flashback seemed like it's going to be, Baldroy learning to respect... learning to respect Sebastian and the other servants, and we already know he does that, because we've seen him in the present day. We know the kind of arc he ends up on, or the place his character is for the bulk of the series. And so it's not a whole, will it happen? We've seen it happen, so let's not spend too much time here. But yeah, there's still some good comedy, seeing Baldroy's first bad attempt at a meal, and also seeing that kind of it does come from not really giving a damn about the quality, because he's just sort of used to eating on the battlefield, eating whatever he can. And that does look... It looks like he's gotten better in his cooking, as he's been a servant for however many years it's been. He no longer, I think, serves the feathers still on and the head still attached. So yeah, the chapter is a nice start to the flashback, all things considered. I hope it doesn't go on too long, like I said. But we'll just have to wait till next month to see where all this goes. So I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe. Do whatever makes you happy, And remember, your life is your own, okay? Bye!